Hi everybody, this is Mike Szabo, bass trombonist with the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. I haven't done one of these videos in a while, so I'm really looking forward to this. And today I've got the opportunity to have with me a contrabass trombone. This is made by Rath in England. And recently I took part in a CD recording of low brass excerpts that is going to be released next year. It's called Eruptions Part 2. And as a part of that recording we did some Wagner ring excerpts. So I thought today I would be playing some contrabass trombone and talking a little bit about Wagner and some of these excerpts that are so fun to play and so important for the repertoire of our instrument. So as you can see, I've got a contrabass trombone here. It's in the key of F. It's about half again bigger than a modern bass trombone, and I've got mine here just for comparison. You can see it's quite a bit bigger. It's got two valves on it, obviously. The first of which is this big valve here in B flat. Second of which is this one here in sort of a flat D, which allows you to play a chromatic scale all the way down. This mouthpiece I'm playing is a Ferguson 2A. I find it works really well for the contra because it's really heavy and it's nice and big. It's bigger than what I usually play on my bass trombone, which is a Greg Black Customs 1/2 G, and it really helps to focus in and sort of settle everything down, I think, because of the weight. So anyway, I'm going to come back in a minute and we're going to begin with the excerpts. Okay, so the first excerpt I would like to play for you comes from the first opera in the Ring cycle, Das Rheingold. And this particular motif is called the Valhalla Motif, and it's always nice and soft and flowing, and the contrabass trombone is on the bottom playing the bass line, and the Wagner tubas are playing the harmony and the melody. It's a very beautiful section of the opera. It does come back several times, so the time that I'm going to be playing for you today is the most commonly asked occurrence on auditions, which is the second time through right towards the beginning of the second scene. So let's have a go at this and see how we do. There you go. One thing you'll find if you pick up the contrabass trombone after playing bass trombone for most of your life, which is what I had to do several years ago, is that pretty much everything changes. And you have to approach it with that in mind. You can't play this instrument and think that you're playing the bass trombone. It doesn't work that way. So one thing that's very different is just the amount of air that you need to use to play the instrument. You need to make sure you're always getting a deep breath, and in an excerpt like this, where you have such long sustained phrases and very little time to take a breath, you need to get those breaths in as quick as possible so you have enough, hopefully, to get through the next phrase. It does take some practice, and I think in the next few excerpts we're going to talk a little bit more about how to approach this instrument as opposed to the bass trombone. Okay, so the next excerpt we're going to go through is probably the most famous excerpt Wagner wrote for the contrabass trombone in his Ring cycle, and that comes to us right at the end of Das Rheingold, where the contrabass trombone and lots of other instruments, bass trumpet, have this huge soaring melody, and it's called the Rainbow Bridge motif. And this one's actually quite challenging on contra, much more so than on bass trombone. So let's have a go at this, and maybe we'll talk about it in a minute afterwards. So one of the misconceptions that I had about contra before I ever actually picked it up and played it was that I thought to myself, hey, look at that giant trombone. Must be great to play low on that thing. Well, unfortunately, it's actually pretty hard to play low on it. So you really have to start fresh with the low range and learn how to do it. And one of the things that I found is that it's actually you can't really play in the low range as if it's the low range, because since we're in a much larger instrument in the key of F, things like a low D flat, for example, the first note of this excerpt, is really kind of not in the low range for the contrabass trombone. You have to play it as if it's more, at the bottom of the staff, as if it were bass trombone. So we'll talk about this more. All right, now for our third excerpt, we're jumping over Valkyrie and heading into Siegfried from the second act, second scene. This is where Siegfried slays the dragon, which, as you can imagine, is going to be quite big for those of us on the low end of the low brass section. So this part is quite difficult because not only is it an extended section of loud playing, you're also moving in a very chromatic way from the inner positions to the outer positions and vice versa, and also from the sort of the upper register down to the lower register in a quite a quick way. So there's a lot of different challenges presented in this section. So let's give a go. There you have it. And so you can see that when we get into the low register, it's actually quite difficult to make it come out. On a bass trombone, you'd be onto the open side of the horn, A, G, F sharp, and as long as you got a good low register, it's sort of just going to pop on out there. But with contrabass trombone, you have to do these various contortions. Each of us is going to be different in the embouchure to have to sort out these notes. So you really need to focus on big, wide air, not fast air at all, because it just won't work that way. All right, we're on to the next one now. Okay, our last excerpt is going to come to us from the fourth and final opera of the Ring cycle called Götterdämmerung. And this section comes to us from the Vorspiel, or prelude to the opera. And It's in the middle of the section called the Siegfried's Rhine Journey, or it's so called anyway on some of these other CDs that it's been released on. This part's quite difficult for contrabass trombone. It goes right up and down with some pretty quick running eighth notes, followed by a section that's once again in and out on the slide, and using some of the second valve to play these notes G and F sharp at the bottom of the bass clef staff, which is quite difficult to make it speak. Anyway, people often ask, how do you play high on the contrabass trombone? Answer, very carefully. So there you go. Thanks very much for watching my video about the contrabass trombone and some of these excerpts we find in Wagner's Ring Cycle. If you like this video, if you like my other videos, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.